Welcome back to another episode of The Quest for Self. I'm your host, Allie. I'm sitting across from my mom at the kitchen table. She's smiling, eating her breakfast, humming a tune to herself. And suddenly, I'm hit with this wave of grief, but also anger all at the same time. Because she's here, but she's not. Not the mom who raised me, who gave me advice, who used to laugh at all my jokes. Now, it's just a version of her I'm still learning how to love. Have you ever loved someone so much and lost them? Lost them, but still have them physically with you? There are moments when I look at my mom and I realize she's still here, but she's not the person I once knew as my mom. Today, I want to talk about something that's so important and something we don't talk about enough: ambiguous loss. We often associate grief with death, with the finality of losing someone. But what happens when you lose someone who's still alive? When an illness, a stroke, or dementia changes who they are completely, even though their body remains. This is a type of grief that so many people quietly carry, and it's one of the hardest ones to explain. Maybe you've had one of those days too, the kind that splits your life into a before and an after. For me, that was Mother's Day. A little over 3 years ago, my mom had a severe stroke. It happened on Mother's Day, a day that's supposed to be filled with flowers, laughter, and celebration. But for me, it became the day everything changed. My mom was found on the bathroom floor. We didn't know how long she went without oxygen to her brain. The damage was extensive, terrifyingly so. She had to relearn everything: how to walk, how to hold a fork, how to exist in a world that suddenly didn't make sense to her anymore. And for us, for me, it was like watching her fade, piece by piece. But what's been the hardest isn't the physical recovery. It's the absence behind her eyes, her inability to reason, to communicate, to be mentally present. She developed global aphasia, a significant brain damage, and in so many ways, she became like a child. Maybe you've been there too, watching someone you love change so much that it feels like you're loving a memory. That's such a painful thing to admit. To say that your mother, the person who raised you, now needs you to care for her like you once needed her. Some days, I catch myself getting frustrated, asking silently, why can't she just try to speak again? Why can't she understand what's happening? And then I have to stop myself. I have to remind myself that she can't, that this is her new normal, and mine too. There are days when I don't even want to be around her. Days when her tantrums over small things like food, clothes, plans just drain everything out of me. And when that happens, guilt shows up like an old, heavy friend. Because how can I feel angry at someone who's already lost so much? I love her. I really do. And I'm here because I love her. Before all of this, I was living abroad in Spain full time. That life felt light, full of freedom, growth, and possibility. But when she had her stroke, I came back to California, at least part time, to be closer to her, to help, to show up. Even though no one ever explicitly asked me to, I felt like I couldn't just go on living as if everything was the same. And that's where things get really complicated. Because love and duty, freedom and guilt, they all live together now. Every time I go back to Spain, I feel something shift inside me. I feel alive again. I feel me again. And right after that comes guilt. Guilt for needing space. Guilt for wanting to breathe. Guilt for wanting to live. And underneath all of that, there's resentment. Not toward her, never her, but toward the situation. Toward the loss of who she once was. And the cruel reality of loving someone who's both here and not here at the same time. And then, just when I think I've run out of patience or hope, something small pulls me back. A reminder that she's still in there. Like when she comes into my room without saying a word and just hugs me. No explanation, no words, just that, a hug. And in those moments, I know that deep down, she understands, that she knows my frustration isn't toward her. It's toward this impossible situation neither of us chose. I try to be intentional with our time. We watch movies, go for walks, eat out, exercise together. It's different now, quieter, slower, but it still matters. I'm learning to find peace, to love her as she is now, even when peace feels impossible. Still, there are nights when I look at old photos of her and completely fall apart because I miss her laugh, her advice, her presence, the version of her that only exists in my memory now. And sometimes I hate admitting this, but I wish things were black or white, that she was either here or she wasn't, because living in this in between, this constant gray, is excruciating. It's like living with the shadow of someone you once knew, surrounded by memories of who they used to be. For a long time, I didn't have words for that, for the feeling of loving someone who's both here and gone at the same time, until I learned there's actually a name for it. Ambiguous loss. I knew it was grief. I just knew it didn't feel like the kind of grief people talk about. No one had died, and yet it felt like I'd lost my mom. Then one day, I came across this concept by Dr. Pauline Boss called ambiguous loss, and it stopped me in my tracks because it finally gave words to something I had been living without knowing how to describe. She explains that ambiguous loss is a kind of grief that doesn't have closure. There's no clear ending, no final goodbye. It's when someone you love is still here, but in some ways, they're not. There are two types she talks about. The first is when someone is physically gone, but you still feel their presence, like when a loved one goes missing, or when a relationship ends, but you can't stop thinking about that person. And the second, the one I can really relate to, is when someone is physically here, but psychologically absent. Like when dementia, a brain injury, or a stroke changes who they are. They're sitting right in front of you, breathing, smiling, existing, but the person you once knew feels so out of reach. That's what makes this kind of grief so painful. You can't fully mourn because they're still alive. You can't move on because they're still here. You just live in this strange middle ground, loving and grieving at the same time. Maybe for you, it's not a parent. Maybe it's a friend, a partner, or even part of yourself that you've lost along the way. Whatever form it takes, that kind of grief doesn't need a name to be real. But having one helps you breathe just a little easier. And people often say to me, "At least your mom's still here." And I get it. I really do. But it's not that simple. Because yes, I'm grateful she's here. I really am. But the person who's here now isn't the same one who raised me, who laughed with me, who gave me advice. And that difference, that invisible loss, hurts in a way that's so hard to explain. It's grief that doesn't have a funeral. It's love that doesn't have a clear place to go. And that silence, it isn't empty. It's heavy, full of emotions that don't always make sense together. Sadness mixed with anger, love tangled with guilt. Because ambiguous loss doesn't just break your heart, it confuses it with so many emotions. Emotions that don't always make sense together. You start questioning whether it's okay to feel what you feel. You start wondering if loving someone means you're not allowed to be frustrated or tired or resentful. But the truth is, this kind of grief is messy. It's not linear, it's not pretty. And it brings out every side of you, even the ones you wish it didn't. I used to feel so guilty for feeling frustrated, for feeling anything but gratitude. But over time, I've learned something really important. Grief doesn't only happen when someone dies. Sometimes it happens when they change. And it's okay to feel it all, to grieve, to love, to resent, to feel tired, to want space. And once I started accepting that truth, that I could love and grieve all at the same time, I began to ask myself, okay, so how do I live with this? How do I find peace when things don't go back to the way they were? So, how do you cope with ambiguous loss? How do you find peace in something that feels so unfair? I don't have all the answers. I'm still figuring it out every single day. But if you're in this place too, maybe some of what's helped me might help you too. 1, accepting mixed emotions. Every feeling, even the ugly ones, they're all valid. 2, therapy. It's helped me understand and accept that I'm not broken for feeling this way. 3, talking to others. I haven't joined a support group yet, but even sharing my story, like through this episode, has been so healing. 4, writing and creating. Turning my pain into something that might help someone else gives it meaning. Sometimes I just journal about it. Write pages on and on about my emotions and just put them out into paper. 5, finding new ways to connect with the person you lost. For me, it's watching a movie, going for a walk, gardening together. Small moments that honor who my mom is now. 6, allowing yourself space without any guilt. When I go to Spain, I give myself permission to recharge. It doesn't mean I love her any less. You have to take care of yourself before you could take care of anyone else. 7, allowing yourself to grieve. This is my last and final tip. When you feel the rush of sadness, don't hold it in. Allow yourself to grieve what you lost. For me, I've picked a song. Anytime I'm missing my mom, I'll play that song and I will cry uncontrollably. But in a way, it's cathartic. It allows me to really give space to be able to hold on to that emotion, but also let it go. And maybe that's what healing really looks like. It's not about fixing what's broken, but learning to live with what is. So before I close, I just want to say this. If you're listening right now, and any part of this feels familiar, if you have a parent with dementia, a partner with an illness, someone who's here but not the same, I want you to know I see you. I hear you. You are not alone in this kind of grief. You are allowed to miss someone who's still here. You are allowed to be mad, sad, resentful, or exhausted. Because what you have now isn't what you once knew. And it's okay to grieve that. But maybe, just maybe, this new version of the person you love, the one you're still showing up for, is teaching you something about acceptance, resilience, and love. Be kind to yourself, be gentle with your heart, and never let anyone tell you how you should feel. Some days, when I tuck my mom into bed, she smiles at me in this quiet, knowing way. And I realize maybe love isn't about holding on to who someone was. Maybe it's about learning to love who they are, even when everything's changed. So if you're living with loss that has no end, I hope you remember you can still find peace in the in-between. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of The Quest for Self. If you enjoyed listening to this episode, like, follow, subscribe, comment, and share. It would mean the world. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media, The Quest for Self.